Motivation and confidence depend upon each other. You really need both to move forward. In this graph, we use this in our physician CME course, we have mapped confidence on one axis against importance or motivation on the other. And if you're below a score of 3 or 3 on either how important it is or how confident are you, you are down in the pre-contemplation zone. And it's very tough to change. If you're a healthcare provider and you want your patient to consider 5 different behaviors you'd like them to work on, have them score their importance and confidence on each, and then encourage them to work on the things with scores around a 6 or a 7 for both, because usually there's still room to improve their confidence and improve their motivation, but it's not a big leap to go from, say, a 6 to an 8 or a 7 to an 8. So steer away from behaviors where people's confidence or motivation is low. So this is a very simple quantitative tool to help people sort out where they want to start. And if you think about health and wellness, I mean, there's so many different choices, and people will have different scores across a whole different set of eating behaviors, exercise behaviors. And this really moves you away from the guidelines, because the guidelines often are so scary to people, 9 servings of fruits and veggies a day, or 30 minutes of exercise, they say that's impossible. So if you can find a behavior where they're ready to change, being successful in that will lift the boat, it will improve their motivation and confidence elsewhere, and it will get them started on this upward spiral. Because people have such big challenges today in changing their healthy lifestyles, I'm sure you've heard most of them. The point of showing you the decisional balance is that it kind of makes you realize how strong the motivational drive has to be to overcome all the reasons to stay the same. And so people need to kind of weigh up those two and make sure that they are working on both together. So as Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Confidence. So I look at motivation as tapping into something that is inherent and biological. It's our drive to be humans. We're born to want to make a difference in the world, to use our strengths, to contribute. But our capacities usually have to be built by practice and time. And so you want to tap into the motivation and then help people build the capacity. And when people don't think they can, their motivation goes to sleep. So 3 things I want to expand on. One is positive emotions, a little bit on strengths, and then some other tips. So how many of you know about the biology around positive emotions? Because I can skip this if it's familiar. A few. So very quickly, negative emotions move lightning fast. They stick like Velcro, and they are intended to get our attention and to get us to do something to get out of danger. They're unresolved, and they're intended to stick, so they really hang around. It's hard to release them. If you've ever been in the grip of, the dog puked on the carpet and the coffee machine broke and the car was out of gas, and you know how very quickly these negative emotions can take over. Positive emotions are much more like butterflies. They're fleeting. They act more like Teflon. But they have an impact on our brain resources. While negative emotions actually deplete our focus, positive emotions improve our brain function. So Barbara Fredrickson's work over many years has shown that they allow us to be more open-minded, more creative. We see the big picture. We can think out of the box. And so the simple message here is make sure you start every visit with a really good dose of positive. What's the best thing that happened to you in the past week? What are you enjoying most in your life right now? What's your favorite thing to do? Be creative, find any number of ways to just spark authentic positivity, because when you get to the tough stuff, your patient's brain will have some capacity to deal with it. Positive emotions work over time as well. They build our intellectual resources. We're better at problem solving. We're better at learning. We're more coordinated. Our cardiovascular recovery is faster. We bond better with people. We're more optimistic. So many dividends. Barbara Fredrickson's book, Positivity, lays out her entire 20 years of research beautifully if you want to dive into this. I think one of the biggest important studies, and she does great studies that move things forward in leaps, is where she showed that what What drives life satisfaction is resilience. What differs two people, one satisfied with their life and one not, is the resilient person will be more satisfied with their lives. And what drives resilience is not the level of negative emotions, because we all have plenty of those, but it's the level of positive emotions. And so the people that recover quickly from stress are the folks who can find the positive in the negative quickly. And there's a tipping point. Above 3 to 1, you have the capacity to bounce back from adversity. Below, you languish. It turns out that 80% of adults are below the 3 to 1 ratio. I have some colleagues in a medical fitness facility. They just did about 150 people with chronic disease, and the average ratio was 1.8, which is really underwater, perhaps not clinically depressed, but pretty down. And this is such a gift, this research, to coaches, because it gives us the opportunity to talk about what makes you thrive, what makes your life worth living, what do you enjoy most doing, how do you use your strengths in ways that energize you. And because all of these things are building the positivity in small and large ways that are building resilience that in fact lead to a better capacity to change. You can learn about your ratio at positivityratio.com. It takes 2 to 4 minutes. 2 minutes to do it several times to get an average, and you'll get a sense of where you're at. This is, I think, perhaps a new vital sign to consider. There's a lot of literature in the last few years, and Ed Diener told me he has another paper coming out that will make the case that positive emotions are causal in improving physical health. So we know that positive emotions reverse chronic stress, they prevent getting ill, the longevity is comparable to not smoking. People with higher levels of positive emotions get fewer colds and flu. Our physical symptoms like pain are reduced, and happy people are more likely to engage in healthy behaviors. So gradually we're beginning to show this spiral where positive mental health and positive physical health are interdependent. And the positive psychology world is really unleashing all of this literature to the general world. So, yes, you got the joke. So, people, because people aren't used to doing this ratio, it's pretty hard to tell a patient, you're really negative. It's a difficult conversation. If you can send them off to do the ratio, they say, oh my goodness, I'm only at 2.1. Why do you think that's the case? People are often very surprised. One of the great ways to energize us is and this is actually the third drive in the self-determination theory, is that we love to be competent. We hate falling off our bikes. And we are more competent when we use our strengths. And so my simplest tool to help people change when they're not good at self-control is to line up all their strengths. There are lots of different assessments you can use. This one via character.org is free, and start brainstorming. How can you use your creativity to do this? How can you use your love of learning? How can you use, and also when you really tap into people's strengths, it's like you speed up their mental process. They come up with solutions much faster. And so this is again another thing you could add to your patient records is their list of strengths and talents. So coaching exercise, build positivity intentionally. What energizes you? What makes you come alive? What are the top things that make you thrive? How can you do more of those things? So I've presented positivity within the umbrella of self-efficacy, and I want to add a few more tips on building confidence. One is that a little is better than nothing. It's okay to do a 5-minute walk. It's okay to lift a 1-pound dumbbell. It's okay to meditate for 3 minutes. Anything is better than nothing. We often get into this is the guidelines, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it at all. Fake it until you make it. Sometimes you really don't know if you're going to like doing something, and just doing it, if you get the benefits, that can make a difference. Stretch yourself, create goals that are engaging, but not too much of a stretch or you become anxious. And don't forget to celebrate success. Shake people's hands, have something in your office that, is a little bit of fireworks, do things that really expand the experience of success so that people really take a moment to enjoy it. One of my favorite strategies I coach executives around connecting their wellness and their leadership, and encourage them to experiment. And my idea is that our health is a bit more like a nonlinear system than a linear one thing causes the end result, that it's usually a combination of several things together that deliver the impact we want. And to encourage people to experiment, and if they don't notice a benefit within 2 or 3 weeks, in fact, Fredrickson has showed if you don't see a benefit, if you don't notice your energy is better or something shifts, you're not likely to sustain the behavior. So play around with lots of different things until you find that combination that works for you, that's simple, that you can sustain, and that becomes your own personal formula. So Teresa is developing her confidence. She's becoming more positive at home. She realized she's kind of grumpy a lot of the time. Taking time to celebrate small wins, focusing on her strengths, and improving her relationship with her daughter through collaboration. Dave is also getting more confident. He's beginning to really just appreciate all the good things that he loves about his job that he'd forgotten, that he has a lot of strengths at work that he's never brought to his personal wellness, that he has committed to experimenting, and he's not willing to make health his first priority 7 days a week, but he's going to start with 2. Then we have the change process, which is really about what happens over time, how we set the structure in place, the vision, the plans, the goals, the social support. I find even CEOs love to be accountable to somebody, to send in an email, to report back. Accountability is one of the amazingly helpful pieces of coaching. When you actually tell your doctor or your coach or your dietitian or your nurse, this is what I did and this is how it went. One quick point is that we tend to often think about educating people as checking off a checklist. You know, I've got to make sure you get all this information right now before you leave the hospital, and it's got to be done. The fact is that people's ability to absorb information is a bit like a dried out houseplant. Has anybody ever had a houseplant? You know, when you try to water it, the water runs over everywhere. You have to put in a tiny few drops and then you have to wait. Often a while, often a day, put a tiny more in. So there's an ideal amount of information people are ready to absorb, and so keep that in mind and make sure that and give them the choice, the autonomy to choose, what do I want to learn now, what do I need to know now, nothing more, nothing less. So Teresa's journey, she set goals for the next 3 months, 2 40-minute walk jogs with her daughter. She's eating more lean protein at breakfast because her energy is better late afternoon when she does that. She is enjoying 1 small sweet daily yoga class, and she's really enjoying journaling because when she writes down, and actually this is something I do, when you write down most days how you feel, what you're grateful for, and what you're learning, it's just a very quick way to kind of to connect with yourself. And the change in mindset is that instead of following all the experts, she's becoming the captain of her own ship. Dave's journey, he's working on healthy breakfasts and evening snacks, 2 treadmill workouts, 1 family fun evening and 1 date, and don't tell his wife he's actually enjoying making healthy eating choices, which is new for him. So that is my quick tour around some coaching concepts, some skills, and some exercises. We're talking about doing more of this, and I would love to hear from you. I know you may have to leave now, but what topics you'd like to expand on, and we can make sure that you get additional information. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for having me.